It is an Overreaction Tuesday, and we have Lynnell Willingham with us live in studio. What's up, man?
How you doing, buddy?
How
you doing, buddy?
I'm good. I know that you've got to be ready to just lose it.
I feel like I've been kept at bay since Sunday. Mm-hmm. Not on purpose, but it's just the way the schedule went this week.
Yeah.
I've never been more – I've had like 3 stages of emotions.
Okay.
Right? We can go back to the therapy couch
now
for a second.
I feel like I want the therapy music.
Watching it Sunday was the first time this year I got to sit and like watch the game without doing the in-game show. So like obviously that's cool. Love working, but that was just cool to get to watch the game from a different vantage point.
Right.
As it's happening, you almost kind of start laughing because it's like, no way, are we really going to do this? And then you eventually are waiting for that, proverbial other shoe to drop and for them to get it right. And it just never happened. And as we moved into the late night hours on Sunday, I went and did some TV over at DC News Now, and I kind of lost it on my way there. I mean, it is just ridiculous that we're at this point, and it feels like, and you can tell me if I'm overreacting, this feels like rock bottom in terms of the past 4 years. This feels like something maybe this team can't come back from. We all are talking about Ron and his job security moving forward. What about the emotional and mental psyche of this football team right now? Are you kidding? They know that Tommy DeVito is an undrafted quarterback. They know that his mother washes his drawers still. You don't think that bothers them? That they lost to this kid?
I mean, it definitely does. I mean, look, Sam Howell says all the right things, and Sam today in his press conference is like, we lost to a team that we thought we should beat. We thought we were the better team,
right.
and like we didn't play that way on Sunday. I don't have a problem with Sam saying that because he's right, and I think it's interesting. Like obviously tomorrow, this time we'll be doing Never Read the Comments, and I got a lot of YouTube comments saying like this. Quit saying that the Commanders were a better team. They're not. And I'm like, go watch the other games. Like the Giants have one other win this year, and it took a miraculous second half comeback against the Arizona Cardinals, Josh Dobbs version. Like week 2 Josh Dobbs version. Like that, the Giants are horrendous. And they have some talent. Like Okereke's a good player. Dexter Lawrence is a ridiculously good player.
Dominant.
They have some talent on that team, but so does every NFL team. By NFL standards, they're not any good. And you just played a game that you were like battling uphill the entire time and had a miracle chance to maybe do something at the end. So like, they feel that and are embarrassed. And I don't think that's an overreaction at all. The question is like, often I also had another funny comment on our video from last week, and someone's like, I know these are supposed to be hot takes, but I agree with them. And I'm like, that's the thing about Lynnell. Lynnell has great information and great insight, and then sometimes takes it to an absolutely nonsensical conclusion. So I'm curious where the back half of this take goes, but like your front half, assuming that was a half, is absolutely spot on.
I'm gonna, and this is where I'm about to admittedly get nonsensical.
Yeah.
It's not even nonsensical. It's just I'm emotional just like you all are, right? I just look at this thing big picture, and I'm frustrated for a multitude of different reasons. The ownership group, I feel like I'm tired of seeing Magic's tweets. I want more than that, right? Show me that this is unacceptable. How do you do that? You make some sort of change to this coaching staff. Ron Rivera, probably the luckiest head coach in the past 2 seasons, and here's why. The game that he should get fired, they're on a short week. And then last year, he couldn't get fired this offseason because of the ownership change.
Sure.
It's ridiculous what's going on, and I think they're at a point right now where they need a new voice. And I don't agree with, and I think you may be one of them, Hoffman, making Eric Bieniemy the head coach for the final 6 games of the season or final 5 games of the season after Dallas. I don't see what's wrong with it. I don't see any type of issue with it. I think
you don't see
just have
any type of issue.
No, I just have to. I think it's up to Josh Harris and company to show to the fan base that this isn't acceptable, man. It feels like
for what? Like this is my question. For what? So that you can.
This is my thing. The rumors and reports that have come out in the past 7 to 10 days about how Bill Belichick is a real option being considered by this ownership group because they want credibility and they think a veteran coach is going to bring credibility. You know what brings credibility within the fan base? Showing that this S show isn't acceptable anymore. That's where I'm at.
One, I don't believe the Belichick stuff. I don't believe it for a second. We talked about it, and Breer's like a good reporter, but like when Keim comes out and shoots it down, when JP, like people that are more connected to the New England and the Belichick side have seemingly put that out more, or national folks have put that out more. People around here, as JP said, he was the first guy to mention Josh Harris, and he has heard that this is absolutely not true. So I don't buy, like, and then people, say that, like, oh, I've heard this, and then they speculate as the reason to why as the Tom Coughlin explanation. I don't think anyone has specifically even said Josh Harris wants Belichick because validity. He knows what gets validity. You win. And Josh Harris also has built other organizations, and he doesn't go, like, could he go for a big name in Doc Rivers? Yes, but he hired Doc Rivers in part because I think the NBA had a little bit of say about what was going on there in terms of who the GM was and all that kind of stuff after the process. But, like, Josh Harris hired Brett Brown as his first coach. Like, Brett Brown was a very highly thought of assistant on Greg Popovich's staff. It wasn't like he went big name hunting. He hired a great, assistant coach that a lot of people would have liked, and then they decided to invoke the process. So I think that if you think of how Josh Harris thinks about sports and using data and being kind of cutting edge, like, Belichick doesn't fit that mold at all.
Does Eric Bieniemy not fit that mold then?
I don't know.
I just think it would be.
I honestly don't know. Like, I don't know what EB's football philosophy is. It seems to be allegedly chuck it deep, but he doesn't actually ever chuck it deep.
Well, I think we can. And I know where you're going with that. Their explosive pass play numbers just aren't there right now, even though they're tops in the league in passing yards.
They've done, a ton of passing yards by volume, and they also have hit, they've hit a decent amount of chunk plays in some games that they're like actually pretty high in like 15 and 20 plus yard completions, but they haven't hit a 40-yarder all year. Like, they can't take the top off of defense, even if they can get a good high cross every now and again.
I mean, the reason I'm so infatuated by Bieniemy is because the impact we saw him have on the offense from day one in terms of just accountability. Can we have that spread throughout the locker room?
This is my thing. Like, do they? Like, is it better than last year? Sure, that's a pretty low bar. Nobody hired Scott Turner for a reason. So, like, in comparison to what's
the
been
offense
here,
isn't better?
I'm saying it is better, but, like, does it have this supreme level of execution and accountability? I don't know. They can't pick up a line stunt.
But that's not on Eric. That's on the personnel, which he has no part in choosing. And that gets me to my bigger issue.
That's also 100% not true. Why do you think Andrew Wiley's here?
Because is Andrew Wiley the one blowing the stunts, or is it Ron's 7th-round pick from last year blowing the stunts?
I mean, it's some of it, but also, EB could have said, like, hey, I can't operate like this at guard, and they perhaps would have done something different. I mean, EB was there in the draft room when they took Ricky Stromberg and Braden Daniels, who haven't played basically at all this year.
I don't know how much responsibility he had in terms of personnel. I don't want to speculate on that, but, like, I don't know. I think
the larger point is like, EB, the receivers, for instance, like, are they hitting all the right splits? Are they hitting all the right stuff?
But is that on him? Or think about and this goes for defensive backs as well, with Chris Harris leaving and now all of a sudden that group falling apart. Drew Terrell goes and all of a sudden the receivers are playing with zero detail. I mean, that's real.
It's part of it, but, like, EB hired the guy that replaced him. So, like, my thing is like, EB is having enough trouble getting this offense consistent every week. And that's not actually me saying that, like, EB is not a good coach. It's like, it's a new offense. You have, like, Kyle Shanahan will tell you it takes 3 years to get a system down. They are 12 games into this, and he's got a quarterback who's 13 games into his career. EB's hands are full. And the thing I think what I would tell you is that people need to understand, Lynnell, you across from me at this table need to understand is this season is over. Like, pull the Vince Carter, it's over.
You too, Craig? I was on with AWOD earlier today.
Look at the math.
Said the same thing.
Look at the math.
The math ain't mathing when you look at the entire body of work this National Football League season. I think one thing has been proven. It is the definition of any given Sunday. I understand the next 6 weeks look like a daunting task, but there have been crazier upsets this year than Washington going to Dallas on Thanksgiving. There have been crazier upsets this year than Washington beating Miami at home. So when you take a deep breath and you just look at where they are right now in the standings, you're 2 games back in the loss column of Minnesota, whose quarterback situation is worse than yours.
Sure.
And they haven't been flawless. The team, my point is, I wouldn't say the season's over because the teams that are in front of you are just as flawed as you are.
But your schedule's a nightmare, and you stink. The
schedule can be a nightmare now, but Tua can go get hurt on Sunday.
They started 2-0.
They did.
They're 4-7.
I get that.
They're 30th in defensive DVOA. They've given up the most points in the league.
This is not me trying to say this is a good football team. This is me saying I know better with this group to not put the lid on them.
But my point is, what are you trying to salvage?
It's not even about salvaging anything. The next 6 weeks.
Then what is it about? What is it about? That's ultimately what I'm trying to get to, right? What is it that you are trying to save? Is my question here that is worth shaking up the staff and doing this stuff versus just, hey man, let's get to the end of the season, let's land the plane, and let's go out in a field full of candidates with one of the best jobs
why not get a head
on the
start,
market.
Greg?
How are you getting a head start?
Because you would get to go look at the field.
They can look at the field right now.
Yeah, but
they can't bring anybody in.
Of course not.
That's the thing, is if you could truly get a head start, 100% for it. But there are no candidates that you want that don't currently have jobs.
Fair, unless you consider EB to be a candidate, which I don't know. I'm not. We'll obviously have these discussions in more detail as we get closer to the offseason, but I'm just not willing to write off Eric Bieniemy as a head coaching candidate. I'm impressed with what he's come here and done, considering the sum of the parts that he's working with.
I like some of what he has done. I do not think that there is consistency enough with the way, and I also
he's not even getting consistency at quarterback though. Y'all want him to be a consistent play caller, yet he's not getting consistent play from his players. It's hard to call plays when you don't know.
But
if
it's a chicken and
the
to me, it's a chicken and the egg thing. Which one's which? You overloaded this quarterback early, and you wonder why you couldn't get consistent play. It's because you're asking a guy who's barely played NFL football to throw it more than anybody else in the league. There hasn't been an ability to find solutions, and I talk to people, you talk to people. I don't know that there's unanimous kumbaya feelings about the offense in that locker room. I don't know that him being elevated or him being empowered would go over great with everybody. There's been frustration that has leaked out of that locker room this year.
You know what? And this is no offense, and this, I guess, is my next overreaction. I don't think anybody on that roster, in the big picture, we overvalue our own talent. I feel like just looking at Sunday and the guys that are supposed to be your best guys, I don't know. I'm at a big head-scratching point with this roster in terms of, and this is something I'll talk about tonight on Overtime, who is a blue-chip player on this roster? Who is an inexpendable piece in terms of the big picture moving forward with the offseason? Because we're all excited about the draft capital that we have for moving Chase and Montez. You can get a hell of a lot more if you shed some of the fat on this roster.
Okay, I think that probably is a bit of an overreaction depending on how far you take that statement. So let's couch it, come back to it next, talk about it. It's the Hoffman Show. Lynnell with us on an Overreaction Tuesday here on the Team 980.
This is the Hoffman Show on the Team 980 and the Odyssey app.